Shall we wait for some more attendees or shall we kick off? Okay, I'm gonna make a start. Hi Chris, hi everyone. Thanks very much for joining us today at this fireside chat discussing the role that programmatic has to play in making advertising more inclusive. I'm Emily Britton, I'm the Head of Publisher Development for Mantis, and joining me is Chris Kenna, the CEO and founder of diversity media network Brand Advance. Hi Chris, how are you doing today?
Yeah, good. Warm.
Yeah, very warm. Great, thanks for being here. So I'm just going to do a very quick introduction to Mantis, and then I'll hand over to Chris to introduce Brand Advance. So Mantis is an AI-led brand safety and contextual targeting tool designed by Reach in partnership with IBM Watson. And we have had the pleasure of partnering with Brand Advance for the last 18 months, powering their sentiment platform and supporting their brand safety and contextual strategy. So Chris, for those in the audience who are not yet familiar with Brand Advance, can you talk us through a bit about what Brand Advance does, what inspired you to launch the company, and how Brand Advance has developed, particularly in the last year throughout the pandemic?
Cool. All right, got to remember all three of them questions. But the first one, what Brand Advance is. So Brand Advance, the main brunt of the company is a global network of media owners. So that's over 300 digital publishers, and then there's TV, radio, out of home, etc. as well. And all of them media owners reach diverse communities. So whether it's Black, African American, Latinx, Indian, Pakistan, race, religion, sexual orientation, over 50, disability, all of the demographics that have been classed as the others. I know everyone's flashing on the screen, but I'll talk through it. All of the demographics that have been classed as the other, the outsiders. We help and ensure that they're reached in media that is relevant to them. Why did I found it? I founded the company, well, because no one else was doing it, number one. And number two, because it's a very personal thing to me. I have two kids, one's mixed race, one's white, and advertising and brand safety and keyword blocking meant that they couldn't reach my son, but were easily reaching my daughter just because how they identified meant the media that they contextually found themselves in. And blunt keyword blocking, blunt brand safety meant that they weren't reaching one and weren't reaching the other. And it was just fortunate that not long, or sort of a year or so after we launched, the whole world became woke at the same time and got on board and realized the importance of reaching everyone in society, because, well, marketing's not done right if it's not allowing everybody the possibility of buying, a product or service. Sorry for the doorbell ringing.
No worries. Thanks, Chris. That's a really great introduction. So I'd like to ask you now a bit about advertising during awareness months. So traditionally, brands will put focus on advertising to communities like the LGBTQ plus community during Pride Month and ignore these audiences for the rest of the year. How can we as an industry ensure inclusivity in advertising throughout the year across all diverse audiences rather than just during awareness months?
The simple answer, and I'm going to be really blunt, is if marketing, hopefully you can see it, yeah, this is a glass of water. If a brand goes to an agency or to a media owner and says, I want to give you the contract for selling this glass of water, the job of every marketeer is to put that glass of water in front of as many people as possible that could possibly buy it. Give sort of creative allows you to see the glass of water in situation. Media ensures that everybody knows that glasses of water exist and where you can buy them. Data and insights tell you what everybody thinks about glasses of water. This is a really long analogy, but But never in marketing was anybody told, could you sell that glass of water only to straight people or to white people, and maybe sell it to LGBT on 1 month, and maybe sell it to black people on Black History. You know, that's not marketing. So I can only speak really bluntly. You know, if you are not ensuring that every possible consumer of a product is reached, no matter what race, religion, or sexual orientation they are, or what age they are, if they're over 50, or what ability they are. If you're not ensuring everybody can be reached fairly, equally, and with as much vigor, then you're just not doing marketing correctly. So, you know, the importance of it, Emily, really is you can either do marketing correctly or you can do it nearly good. Nearly good is when you're just reaching a certain demographic for 1 month of the year, because my black doesn't wash off, and I'm a gay guy as well, and that doesn't, you know, that's never going to disappear neither. So these are two defining, I wouldn't say defining, well, they are defining characteristics, but they're not all I am, obviously, but, you know, but they are two important factors to a marketeer on how to reach me, you know. So yeah, and it's there all year. So if you've got anything in the way that stops you reaching me when I am reading media about my blackness, or reading media related to the community, the LGBT community, then you're just not doing marketing very well, to be honest.
I think that's a really good and fair point, and you know, we want you here for your bluntness. So yeah.
Cool.
How would you like, so I think, you know, we've had conversations around kind of pushing back, or when brands kind of push back when you make these suggestions to make their strategies more inclusive. How do you kind of deal with advertisers directly when they are kind of pushing back when you make these suggestions to make their campaigns and strategies more inclusive?
Well, you know, there's a real point that brands need to think about. You know, and I know it's sort of the same across Europe, but different countries have different iterations of this. France is very different to the UK on this, but it is wrong and in many ways illegal to discriminate for race, religion, or sexual orientation. Yeah, we know that. Any protected characteristics, actually for disability, etc. as well, and age discrimination and gender discrimination. So there was a point up to now where ignorance was bliss. I didn't really know about that audience, and so therefore I didn't reach them, you know. But once an agency or a media owner brings to your attention the fact that you are unfairly not reaching these demographics and they want to help you do it, for you to say, no, I don't want to do that, could be deemed as discriminatory. You know, like we said, we're going to speak bluntly. You're basically saying, no, I do not want to put my ad in front of LGBT people. Well, it's not their fault they're LGBT. They were born that way. They really do want to see your ad, you know. So that kind of pushback has to stop, because it's wrong on many levels. It's wrong on a moral level, but there's also, you know, and the rise of the conscious consumer now, you know, after a terrible year for us all, we're all highly aware now of who we are, who brands are, what they represent, what they do, and do they represent me? You know, we're much more in tune now, whether it's against sustainability, whether it's against diversity, you know, after the murder of George Floyd and lots of other stuff that's gone on in the world, we're all there now. We're, you know, it's a horrible word, but it's a word that everyone, I'm sure, watching it know, but we're all a bit more woke. We understand. We've had it all taken away from us, you know, where we could only, you know, go to the supermarket and then head straight home. And now we know that we can live without anything, so we can make a choice now. Any brand is a choice, you know, from the day they open the doors again to the world. It's a choice now. I choose. I don't need you anymore. I thought I did because I grew up being told I did, but now I don't, you know. So I think if brands want to stay relevant, if they then don't push back. Find a way through. And, you know, there might be education needed. You might need to work with specialists. I know that's a little bit of smoke up our backside because we're a specialist, but, you know, or you might need to use technology like Mantis to achieve this. And, you know, surround yourself with people that know what they're talking about, but to just bluntly push back on it. You know, the amount of times I've had clients say, "Oh yeah, no, we'll do India, but we don't want to do Pakistani. So if you could just take Pakistani off that media plan, please. We'll do black, but this interracial bit, I don't think we need that. You know, what?"
And you guys work, like, you'll work with that brand, right, to kind of consult on, I guess, that ignorance, if we're being that that blunt and say that, you know. But I think, yeah, I know that you guys have got strategies and consultative options in place to kind of work through that education. Yeah,
and I mean, you know, that's what us as agencies and tech vendors and media owners, that's where our 15-20% comes from being them consultants, from saying, giving them extra options. Otherwise, all brands would just do marketing in-house, you know, like they don't need us unless we're going to look at the world, bring it to look at what's going on, bring it together and say, okay, this is what we recommend. This is what's new. This is some new technology that you can now use to do better, to be better, and to be seen to be better as well. So that is our job. You know, we should never shirk away from the fact that our job is to educate, our job is to advise, our job is to do, and our job is to achieve the results and to report on the results. That's the job of marketeers on this side of the fence. But the job of brand custodians as well is to ensure that their brand survives as number one. You know, every CEO to their brand team is, in all but actual words, saying, make my brand last another year, 10 years, you know, keep me relevant, keep us relevant. So you can't do that if you're missing whole demographics, if you're letting fear or naivety or ignorance stopping you from doing that, you know. So
yeah, absolutely. Awesome, thank you. What was my next question? Cool. So obviously there are a ton of challenges to address when it comes to making advertising and programmatic more inclusive. It'd be really cool if you could talk to an example of where you've experienced a specific win with a brand or agency in helping them to kind of make campaigns more inclusive. Is there anyone that's kind of really turned a corner when it comes to diversity and inclusion in advertising?
Oh gosh, I've got 1,000 wins, because every campaign we do, I suppose, is a win. Really, it was more spend into the community. But okay, let me please some brands.
As well, sorry.
But if I say some good ones, you're going to ask me what's a bad one next. But I suppose brands like Unilever and L'Oreal that have led the way, GSK especially. Actually, we've just shot the first LGBT advert in Brazil for Advil, the painkiller, which is really good. You know, you just need to see the ad. It comes out in a week or two. But trying to tie painkillers into the LGBT community, you would have thought would be, you know, quite a hard task. But, you know, the brand was really open, even though, you know, many of them weren't from that community, and it's a very conservative country, going through its own turmoils, really open to just, you know, to ensuring that they're creative, and then the media that follows that is inclusive as well. But, you know, I'm singling out a few because, in all honesty, because we work with them. But there's lots, and you could name loads as well. The good thing is that it's now on, I can name on, you know, I could put on one hand the brands that aren't doing it. If you'd have asked me this 18 months ago,
I'm happy for you to talk to that if you want to.
Which brands aren't doing it? You know, because we might work with them one day.
Yeah,
might we? but I mean, they, you know what? I'll look down the camera and say, you know who you are. You know, like, we're here, we're here as specialists in the industry, but also as human beings. You know, nobody has gotten away from the tidal change in how the world and therefore consumers are seeing more. You know, even the government. You know, the government, the biggest spender on diversity media last year, and also, you know, a one phrase change from them has changed everything. Low paid, low skilled workers now called key workers. Like, that is massive. You know, the black bus driver, the Indian lady in Tesco's, I say this a lot. You know, the Eastern European person cleaning the hospital at the end of the day. They weren't even seen. We weren't seen, not they, as if I come from some other class. I am them and they are me, you know. And not notice, never did a brand say, can you just help me reach low paid, low skilled workers in a brief? Like, ever, you know. ABC1 with a monthly income of this is what you get. Now we get briefs saying, can you help me reach key workers? Or this is our target sort of consumer persona, but also, can you make sure there's an element of key worker in there? You know, like, that's beautiful, because that's just an absolute mindset. Marketeers are thinking about demographics that they did not even ever consider before, you know, and there's nowhere to sort of to point blame on any of this, other than us all to point blame at ourselves, you know, us for not shouting louder, you know, others for not understanding it, others for being a little bit too afraid to say, why have we got all these words on our keyword block, you know, and is there a technology out there like Mantis that can help us to not just block a word, you know, because I think the one thing that people haven't thought, like, that brands and agencies that don't push back on it haven't thought of, is the trauma that staff are going through when they have to input words that describe them.
Yeah, and I feel that recently, you know, tasks such as that, where, you know, like you say, the words that are describing your own identity, no one's really taken into account the mental health and the toll that it would take on an individual person. And even if it's describing someone that doesn't identify you personally, like, I know myself, like, it's triggering for me, even as a white person. Like, it's a really horrible task to have to go through, and also to understand that somebody could have made this change. Obviously somebody's seen it, and, you know, you get the kind of, oh, it's been like that for ages, we just haven't updated it, and it's not good enough.
Well, there's the very definition of insanity, isn't it? You know, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. That is the definition of insanity. Yet we, as an agency, have such clever minds and creative spirits, we seem to all be insane 90% of the time, you know. And it's not just in the keywords as well, Emily. It's like phrases that we use. Like, I know it's a lot of agencies and a lot of institutions have really rose against this, but why do we send a blacklist and a whitelist? Blacklist bad, whitelist good, you know? Because that's, yes, I know it's not meant with a racist connotation, but for me as a black guy, and for my 16-year-old son, Jerome, to always see that, oh, if you do something wrong, you get a black mark against your name. Oh, your house gets blacklisted. Or actually, when you're in work, the blacklist, they're all the bad words. The whitelist, that's all the good words. You know, like, it does. It slowly chips away at your soul, at your very being, because it's just constant, this negative, positive, negative, positive, negative for black, positive for white. You know, and it seeps through. And if we're all going to go on a half-day course about our unconscious bias, then let's honestly say what feeds into that. And these phrases and these keyword block lists that have words that literally describe, like, I've been given some keyword block lists, honestly, and the first 20 words are me. You know, it'll be black man, hood, interracial, you know, gay, gayer. You're just like,
yeah. And it's such a, well, you know, physically, it's a simple change. It's removing the words. It's removing the words. It's removing, you know, saying blacklist, whitelist. It's easy changes, but it still feels, you know, we still see it. We, both yourself and myself, like we still see these keywords on these block lists, and we do everything, you know, we can to push that back. But it's still happening. So it's, you know, it's great that we're here and we are, you know, kind of fighting against it, and there's consultative approaches, and there are ways in which Brand Advance can certainly, on a much deeper level, like educate and help a brand kind of navigate those changes. But it also, for me, probably being quite blunt, I just feel like it's, some of those things are so easy to change, and for it makes such a huge difference to make that small change, makes such a massive difference. So why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, exactly. And if we're gonna, you know, let's be honest with ourselves as well. We cannot stick little black boxes on our social media. You know, we cannot call ourselves allies and have ERGs throughout our businesses. And if we are going to let the little things go, the little things that mean so much to so many, we cannot do that. That's just hypocritical. It's worse than doing nothing at all. Is to tell me you stand shoulder to shoulder with me and my kid, and then to send me a list that blocks me and my kid, you know, and to expect it not to have an effect on people. So yeah, we have first of all, we have a commercial responsibility, and that is to help brands, us as marketeers and as tech vendors and media owners. We have a responsibility to make sure that our clients, brands, get to as many potential consumers as possible. So number one, if you're doing anything that's blocking whole demographics, races, religions, sexual orientations, then you're doing your job wrong. You just, you know, I'm not saying you're a good marketeer, you're just not the best yet. You know, because the best would be making sure that every possible consumer can see it, you know, and the best creatives would be making sure that throughout the cycle of creativity for a brand, that everybody can, you know, is represented and is authentically represented as well. So yeah.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. You kind of mentioned there, like obviously reaching certain audiences, which kind of takes me on to my next question. I'm kind of going to shift gears a bit and talk a bit more to kind of programmatic. So when we look at the future of programmatic, one of the biggest challenges in the industry right now is reaching the right audiences in cookieless environments. So how are Brand Advance approaching this with your clients, and how do you kind of continue to ensure inclusivity using those like alternative targeting methods once cookies disappear?
Well, the good thing is, Emily, that we will never have that problem, because the whole of Brand Advance network, which reaches, you know, globally about 1.1 billion people across many countries, we've never been able to use cookies in any targeting, because GDPR in the EU means that you cannot target for protected characteristics. So, and you can't collect data and all of that. So we're a contextual environment. So, you know, it would be wrong to say we were cookieless, because there is a cookie that says where the ad was shown and how many times it was shown. Technically, that's a cookie. But I don't think that cookie's going anywhere. I think it's just the who's on the other end cookies that are being dropped, the identifiers and stuff. We've never used them anyway. You know, when you stick an ad across black media, we don't target black people because it's just black media, you know? So there's cookie number one gone. But a nice, strong contextual environment from the offset, you know, one defining thing about the people in that media. They might not all be black or brown, but they have a high affinity to black media because they're in it, you know? So that's the first layer of context. The second layer of context is interest. So you've got black media. Now, what is the context of the article you're reading? I'm pulling that context layer up. So now, not only do I know you've got a high affinity to black media, so I can stick black creative in there, and you're already going to be strongly drawn towards it. But next, I can stick it just on the articles that are related to technology, you know, and I can stick good creative, good authentic, fits in that community creative about a technology brand, and I can target that around technology articles. Now I've got 2 strong layers of, and I haven't used one cookie yet. Well, one identifying targeting cookie, and that's what we've done since day one. That's all we've been allowed to do.
Yeah.
So I sort of sometimes when I've been asked that question quite a lot, and I'm sort of like, I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
But technically I just did. But I didn't know we were going to be in this place. So I wish it was a very smart move on our part that we got ourselves ahead of the industry, and now we're ready to go and come and work with us, because nothing's going to get turned off. But it just so happens we weren't allowed to do it anyway. So now we're in the position that the rest of the world's got to get to, kind of thing, which is
and you guys can be that kind of leader in informed, intelligent kind of contextual solutions, especially for diversity and inclusion.
And they can use your technology to do it as well. I mean, it powers sentiment for us, so we've added a few bits in with sentiment to pull out certain data and stuff, but the Mantis element of it, anybody can come and use that, and it's been around for a while. We've been with these 18 months, and that's because I learned about it 19 months ago. Like literally. So it makes sense for anybody to be using it. Nobody should be using keyword blocking anymore. Done. We are in the 21st century now. We have fantastic technology, and it's no more expensive than your keyword blocking. So no one needs to use it. Like, you should now be using contextual. What is the context of that? Because we've all been reading articles about COVID, but not all of them are bad articles. NHS are heroes still is a COVID article, still will have COVID all the way through it. But I bet any brand wants to be next to that article, because they want to support the fact that the NHS are heroes, because all of them have been stood on their balcony or in their doorways every Thursday for 3 to 5 months clapping, So contextual targeting, and then and the layers of that, and for us there is sort of demographic channels is the first one, then contextual targeting on top of that. I don't know how much you can see of me when I'm waving around.
It's all right.
But yeah, hope that made sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think one thing that's really key, and which is something we've been kind of working on together, is what I sort of mentioned about how those segments are informed. And I think it's just a really important point to note that, if you want to build a segment around across black media for interests of users of those sites, it can't be informed by 2 white people sitting in an office. Like, it's really important that it's informed by people within those groups or within other diverse groups. So I think, and that's something that I know that Brand Advance can supply, because you hire such a diverse staff. And that's something that is, really key. And I think that a lot of marketers kind of forget that and think, oh, I know what these people will be interested in. Whereas what we're shifting to now is, look, we need these segments or this kind of project informed by real people, and understand what people are kind of interested in based off of who they are and kind of how they identify. I think that's what you guys are obviously doing really well. And
And everybody can do it as well. Like, we've got the specialism, and we've got the network, and we've got the know-how on the technology, and we've spoken to these audiences day in, day out, and we've got all the insights and the tools, etc. So yes, we can help on that. I'm not going to undersell us ever. We can definitely, we help brands globally on that. But I think brands and agencies need to get away from first this fear, because I didn't have a choice but to be black, just as you had no choice but to be females, however we identify, and whatever race, religion, sexual orientation, these are things that just make us up. So brands and marketeers especially, and within the programmatic landscape again especially, need to get over this fear of, I am not them, and I don't have anybody from that demographic in my team, so let's just sly away from it because I don't want to get it wrong. Stop. Like, you can yes, there's hiring in, but there's a process to that, and there's a skill set needed. And for conversations and the rabbit hole that we don't want to go down now, there are not many people that look like me in the programmatic landscape for many reasons, socioeconomic, etc. So it's going to take time for that sort of talent to filter up and for you to be able to actually get programmatic excellence in great numbers across lots of different communities. It's going to take time for that. But what you can do is bring in people, you know, and it's not just working with Brand Advance. That's a sort of day-to-day thing, but you've got like Creative Equals and lots of different companies that you can work with that can educate your team and empower them to then not shy away from these. You don't need to be black to run a black programmatic campaign. Full stop. All you need to be is willing to use data, to ask the questions, to consult the advice. You know, don't make all the decisions yourself, but make sure you bring in the right people to help you make an informed strategy. Make sure you're using black media, you know, because how you can run a black campaign without running black media programmatically or any other way is just dazzling to me. I just don't know how it's even possible, but people have tried, you know, to try to make a target of, you know, without saying I want black people, trying to put layers and layers of targeting on that they feel, and that's already a biased way already, because you're saying what you think black people do. That ain't just what we do. You don't, you know, you need to ask us, and we need, you know. But what we do is engage with black media. So, and I'm using black, but I mean this across all of the different spectrums of others and communities, and you know. So yeah, I think the programmatic landscape can really does need to get over that fear, and now needs to start sort of saying, okay, I am not from that community, but I'm going to learn enough so that it can inform my strategy so that I can do it, you know, because otherwise we're going to be waiting another 10 years before the right, you know, enough numbers of people from different communities is in the programmatic landscape. You know, let's start today, because we stuck our black boxes on our social yesterday, you know, and we've all turned our logos into the pride flags today. So let's start today on really truly authentically reaching these demographics, you know. And yeah, I've got like a phrase thing that, you know, I think you've got to do it, mean it, try it, repeat it.
That's great.
Just get it done. You know, if you're talking about it, then do it. Don't let it fear stop you. Do it. Mean it, you know, mean what the reason why you're doing it is just a true reason, you know, and that can be a commercial reason. We want to make sure that our brand now is in front of everybody in society. That's a good reason. You don't, you know, it doesn't need to be a save the world or save the community reason, you know, so do it, mean it, teach it, which is then once you've done that, teach everyone else in your team how to do that, and then just repeat it. Authenticity, you cannot buy, you cannot hire. If you work with Brand Advance, that does not make you authentic as a brand or an agency. You know, authenticity cannot be bought. It is the repeating of something that then nobody can say, where did you come from? You know? So if you just do it, mean it, train it and repeat it, I think you'll stand yourself in good stead.
Amazing. Thank you, Chris. I think that's a good place to kind of close off and see if there are any questions from the audience, which me and Chris are happy to take.
Someone's got to have a question.
See. Okay. Don't think there's any questions right now, but obviously feel free to reach out to myself or Chris on LinkedIn if you have any questions about Brand Advance, Mantis, diversity, inclusion in advertising in general. This session has been recorded, so we can obviously share it with anyone that obviously isn't watching right now. Thank you so much, Chris. It's been really great to have this.
No, always a pleasure.
Thank you for your background as well. I'll just say that I work for Reach @ Mantis. Very kindly put his background because mine wasn't working and I just looked like a ghost. So thank you very much. Yeah, we'll speak to you very soon. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Take care, mate. Bye.